Ladies and gentlemen, Kenyans across the divide are mourning the loss of the former Prime Minister, the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga. There are those who disagreed with him. There are those who really supported him, especially his brand of politics. Either way, Raila Odinga's death is a big blow to everyone. And in this video, I just want to share with you how Raila Odinga's death affects different Kenyans. Of course, we know, and if you've ever had the misfortune of losing a loved one, a family member, you know that the first people who are affected, and I must add, the people who are affected the most, are the immediate family. The wife, the kids, the brothers, and the extended family. You can't explain how much in pain these people are. Like I said, if you've had the misfortune of losing a loved one, you certainly know that it is a very painful time to be alive. The fact that a member of your family will no longer be there is something that human beings, we are not created to accept that. It doesn't matter how old the person is, whether they are 1 day old, a loss is a loss, especially that of a family member. It doesn't matter whether the person is 100 years, you will still feel the gap. So the first group that is affected the most is the immediate family and, of course, the extended family, just the family members. These are people who, as of now, are not interested in hearing anything. They are dealing with loss, and most of them don't even know what to do next, don't even know how to handle life without Raila. That is why people are visiting to give messages of condolence and to encourage the family through the difficult time. The second group of people who are affected by the demise of Raila Odinga are his supporters. Raila Odinga is the only politician in Kenya that we can for sure say enjoyed fanatic support. This is the kind of support you find in football and other sports. It is called fanatic because most of the time it is not logical. You can't explain it logically. You can't say for sure why is it that they love this person so much. And Raila Odinga is, and I repeat, the only politician in Kenya alive then that was enjoying that fanatical support. The late former Vice President Wamalwa Kijana used to say that there exists Raila mania and Raila phobia. Those who love him beyond explanation, and those, of course, who hate him beyond explanation. What I was saying is that Raila Odinga was loved and still is. You saw for yourself the multitude of people who went to even welcome his remains at the airport. You saw them at Kasarani. You've seen the multitude in Kisumu and, of course, in Bondo. And Raila Odinga, one thing is clear. Those who loved him genuinely loved him. And so this is the second group that is affected. And how are they affected? Supporters of Raila Odinga pegged their hope on him one day becoming the president of the republic and changing things for the better. That is why they consistently voted for him a record 5 times. And the belief was that Raila Odinga was going to make things better once he becomes president. They used to use the metaphor of Raila Odinga taking them to Canaan. And you can imagine these people finding themselves without that Raila Odinga, and of course, without reaching the promised land. The loss is too big. You saw the anger in most of their faces. The mourners were lost. They didn't know what next. Some of them said Raila Odinga left them as orphans. And so these people are going through pain. You would compare the pain they are going through to that the family members are going through. Because these genuine supporters of Raila Odinga had reached a level where they were seeing him as their father. As they used to call him Baba, that was to impute the idea that he was the one to guide them as is expected of a father. And so he was like a father figure to them, somebody who's supposed to give them instructions, politically speaking. And it went beyond politics. People got so attached to Raila that some people are feeling like they have lost a real biological parent or biological father in this case. So this is the second group of Kenyans who are really in pain. They have lost someone they really, really cared about. And what makes them even bitter is that they don't know what next. Raila Odinga, as you can remember, left when he had joined William Ruto in a broad-based government. In that broad-based government, Raila Odinga had gone as far as saying that they were supporting William Ruto till 2027. However, Raila Odinga had not explicitly given the endorsement of 2027, though some of its statements, and by declaring that they were supporting William Ruto till 2027, was indeed an endorsement. But there are those supporters of Raila who are still waiting for a way forward. Was Raila going to vie, or was Raila handing them over to William Ruto? These people are feeling serious loss. They don't know which way to go. And of course, political opportunists are going to take advantage of that. So I've told you the first group is the immediate family. Now, this other family is also affected. The supporters, the Baba's family, the people who have stood with him for the over 40 years he's been in politics. Another group that is in serious pain are the political hangers-ons. And this is for lack of a better term. These are people whose political future or people whose election was 100% dependent on Raila Odinga being alive and on the ballot. These are people who are in parliament, who have been elected, some of them more than once, purely because of their association with Raila Odinga. Some of them are people who barely do their work, but because of their association with Raila Odinga, all they have wanted All they've had to do is to say they are going to support Raila Odinga at the top, and then they would get elected. These people, ladies and gentlemen, are in pain. They are hurt beyond words. And here is why. I want you to put yourself in the shoe of a politician whose re-election depended on an endorsement from Raila Odinga. Without that Raila Odinga, this politician is not sure whether they are going back to the county assembly, parliament, or going back to the county as a governor. They don't know. They are now at the mercy of the voters or of the prevailing political arrangements. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a big loss to these people. And some of them, you know, politicians who depend on Raila Odinga. I've done videos here and I've told you why certain people were not very happy with Raila Odinga going for the AUC. I told you that these human beings were feeling like if Raila Odinga is not on the ballot, then there is no guarantee that they will be re-elected. And so they were praying that Raila Odinga fails the AUC. And some of them could not hide their joy. So even though they shed tears, but immediately after they explained why Raila Odinga didn't need to work with William Ruto anymore, that Raila Odinga should have now moved to arrange himself, organize himself to compete. In fact, the likes of Rigathi even enticed Raila Odinga to vie with the promise that the Kikuyus will then back him, that they owed him. But I digress. I was just telling you there are politicians whose re-election or election depended entirely on Raila Odinga's endorsement. Ladies and gentlemen, these people don't know what to do next. Their world has come down crumbling. And so you can understand how it is a big blow to them. Now, I don't want you to misunderstand. Politics world over has some form of patronage. So there is nothing wrong with a politician depending on another powerful politician to get elected. Even in advanced democracies, or should I say older democracies like the United States, an endorsement is still key. You will still need endorsement of certain people to get elected. Especially if you are a Republican, for instance, in the United States, an endorsement from Trump means a lot. It can define whether you are getting elected or not by the masses. So don't misunderstand me. I was just telling you there is this category of politicians whose re-election depended entirely on endorsement by Raila Odinga come 2027. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is not going to happen now that Raila Odinga is no more. You can understand how in pain these people are. Then we have another category, ladies and gentlemen, the opponents of Raila Odinga. There are those people who have run their politics from day one by just hating on Raila Odinga. And by the way, I want to quote one Kimani Ichung'wah. When eulogizing Raila Odinga, Kimani Ichung'wah said that his first statement about Raila Odinga were very reckless, and he used to call him some old man and other funny monikers. And then one day, he met Oburu Odinga. And Oburu asked him, why do you really hate my brother? Why do you have issues with my brother? And Kimani, I'm just quoting him, this is something that he did on the floor of parliament, so the video is available, you can watch it. Kimani said that he told Oburu he was doing that for his politics. What he meant is that the base, especially in Mount Kenya, wanted somebody who was standing up to Raila Odinga. A critic of Raila Odinga had higher chances of getting elected in Mount Kenya. And there are so many people who have been elected in Mount Kenya purely by criticizing or bad-mouthing Raila Odinga. These are the opposite of the people who depend on Raila Odinga for endorsement. These people depend on Raila Odinga being alive so that they make him an enemy and so that they are elected to defend the community against Raila Odinga. I want you to get this. I told you the third group of people who are really affected are men and women who depend on Raila Odinga for re-election. And I told you that most of the time what they say is that they are going to defend Raila Odinga at the top. Now, on the contrary, we have people who have been elected every now and then simply by saying they are going to defend their community against Raila Odinga. So Raila Odinga was both beneficial to sycophants and critics alike. Now, these critics, ladies and gentlemen, the fourth group, like I was saying, are also really sad. And they are sad because they now have to look for a new enemy to hate, somebody who they are going to wake up to vote against. There's an individual who once told us that, for instance, that Mount Kenya doesn't vote for presidents. They vote against Raila Odinga. So what motivates them to go to the polling station, this was just an explanation from one person, what motivates them to go to the polling station is to ensure that Raila Odinga does not become president. And imagine that Raila Odinga is no more. So the object of hate is no more. You have to look for somebody else to hate the same way you hated Raila. And since the hate against Raila, communal hate that is, against Raila, especially in the mountain, is something that has been developed, cultivated over the decades, it will really take these people a long time to find another figure, object of hate like I called it, to hate enough to get people to elect you. So these are also people who have really lost, and they are just suffering as those who depended on Raila Odinga. And ladies and gentlemen, the last category of individuals who are also in pain are those who are wishing Raila Odinga to be alive to make the elections of 2027 about him. Let me explain. We have politicians who depend on criticizing Raila Odinga to be elected. But we also have individuals, just voters, who are motivated to vote in a certain way just because Raila Odinga exists. Let's take the case of the so-called Gen Zs, the ones who are wishing Raila Odinga died, the ones who are saying Raila Odinga betrayed them, and one of them was very bitter. He was saying, die. He didn't like Raila Odinga, and he was being cheered on. I think Ruth, the sister to Raila, has commented on that. He confronted one young journalist who was asking, what is your opinion about the outpouring love? And she was just very blunt. She said that Raila Odinga died knowing very well that Gen Zs were hoping for him to die. Now, these Gen Zs, in a sense, were not hoping for Raila Odinga to die. As you can see, they are all over mourning him. It's very rare to go online, even today, to find the so-called Gen Z celebrating Raila Odinga's death. Why? Because to them, these utterances, creating an enemy, an object of hate, like I said, was important for their politics. Something they can hide every other issue behind and say that in 2027, we are going to the polls to ensure that William Ruto and Raila Odinga are sent home permanently. So this was someone they depended entirely on to drive their politics. And without him, now they are at a loss. because then they will now need to find a replacement of somebody who betrayed them. Because if Raila Odinga is the one who betrayed them and they wanted to teach Raila Odinga a lesson and is no longer there, these people are, ladies and gentlemen, going to will have to manufacture a new person and hate him or her enough the way they did Raila Odinga so that it can motivate them maybe to turn out and vote. Otherwise, they're also feeling lost. I would talk for hours, ladies and gentlemen, but I just wanted to share with you that Raila Odinga's loss has hurt everyone. It is a big blow to all Kenyans, irrespective of your political views. Just as a recap, ladies and gentlemen, this is why Raila Odinga's death is a big blow to everyone. The family, they have just lost a member, a father figure, the towering figure in that family is irreplaceable. They are in serious pain. It is a big blow to them. Raila Odinga's supporters, those who have stood with him over the years, the fanatic supporters that you saw, the ones who are crying and rolling on the street, the ones who are willing to risk their lives to go and see Raila's body, these people are also hurt. It is a big blow to them. They don't know what next. As they're saying, Raila Odinga left them like orphans. They feel confused and without direction and purpose. The third group, ladies and gentlemen, are politicians, especially members of ODM, and especially those who are from Luo Nyanza, who depended entirely on Raila Odinga for political survival. Endorsement of Raila Odinga is what got them elected, is what they were depending on to get re-elected. These people, ladies and gentlemen, are in pain. In fact, some of them are lost. They don't know what to do. They don't know what the future holds for them. They are in serious pain. So it is a big blow to them. Then we have individuals whose election or re-election depended entirely on criticizing Raila Odinga, calling Raila Odinga the enemy, promising their community that they are going to defend them against one evil Raila Odinga. These people, ladies and gentlemen, will have to now find a new enemy and indoctrinate their support base to hate that new enemy enough to make them get elected. And finally are the people, the so-called Gen Zs, who made politics of 2027 to be a hate contest between them and Raila Odinga, who were saying that they will be going early in the morning to vote to teach Raila Odinga and William Ruto a lesson that you never betray Gen Zs. These people will now have to find another person to blame for their failed coup attempt of June 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I could go on and on, but I just wanted to share with you that the loss of the former prime minister is a big loss to the entire country, and people are grieving differently and for different reasons. If you found value in this video, let me know in the comment section and share this video with friends. Otherwise, in case you missed how Oburu Odinga eulogized his brother, watch it here.